Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for watching the video. And right now, in the Introduction to Literature class, we will talk about the nature and elements of prose. First of all, I would like to tell you some learning objectives that you will get after you watch this video and you learn something from this meeting. The first one is that you will be able to mention the nature and elements of prose. Number two, you will be able to identify the basic elements of a story. And the last one is that you will be able to explain the role of elements in shaping a story. While our learning agenda today is to overview the discussion of the nature and also elements of a story or of a prose and their significance in literature. The next one, we will have a discussion in setting, character, and then plot, conflict, theme, and also setting. And the last one, you will have the exercise to read a short story and to employ the elements of literature or of a prose to analyze the literary works. Firstly, we need to understand the meaning of a prose or the meaning of a literary work first. Non-fictional prose is actually a prose that is a true story or factual account or events or information, and it also called as nonfiction. Textbooks or newspaper articles and instruction manuals, all of them fall into this category. And when you still remember, this is the first thing that we have already talked about in this semester. One example from Anne Frank's diary, it is also the non-fictional prose. It composed the entire journal and also Anne Frank's life story and recounts the young teen's experience of hiding with her family in Nazi-occupied Netherlands during the Second World War. The second type of prose is called as fictional prose. It is a literary work of fiction, and this is the most popular type of literary work. You can find it in a novel, in a short stories, and generally, fictional prose has something like characters and then plot, setting, and also dialogue. Another type of prose is heroic prose. Heroic prose is a literary work that is either written down or preserved through oral tradition, but it meant to be recited. And heroic prose is usually a legend or fable. The last type of prose is called prose poetry. So it is a poetry that is written in the form of a prose. And this literary hybrid can sometimes have rhythmic and rhyming patterns. In general, we can conclude that prose simply means language that follows natural patterns that can be found in everyday speech, so that you can find dialogues in the literary work, especially in a prose fiction. And it also refers to any written work that follows a basic grammatical structure and stands out from works of poetry which follow a metrical structure. When we talk about prose, we also need to talk about fiction. So basically, fiction can be defined as an imaginative recreation of life in a prose narrative fiction or in a prose narrative form. And all fiction is actually a falsehood because it relates events that never actually happened to people or maybe ever happened, but it is created in different way. And this kind of actions created at least not in the manner that is portrayed in the stories. However, fiction writers aim at creating what is called as legitimate untruths, since they seek to demonstrate meaningful insights into the human condition. So sometimes writers will use, fictional work or fictional story in order to tell or illustrate the real condition in our society. Therefore, fiction is quote unquote untrue in the absolute sense, but actually true in the universal sense. Here in the prose or in a fictional work, the most fundamental components of a storyline, they are setting, characters, plot, conflict, and also theme. And understanding each of these aspects will contribute to the story that will enable the reader to comprehend the structure and significance of a short story. And understanding how these aspects interact may provide the reader with an appreciation for the short story's purpose. Let's talk about the elements of a story in detail. So we have 5 elements that we're going to talk about in this meeting. The first one is setting, and then characters, conflict, plot, and the last one is theme. When we talk about setting, it is the when or where does the story take place. And the word setting includes not only where the story takes place, but also when it happens, as well as the people and then the culture that live in the world where the story takes place. And having a well-developed setting is very important because it enhances the reading or the reading experience and helps the story's plot, tone, and also the characters flourish. So you can use some questions, for example, when, where, and under what circumstances the story happened, and maybe what is the content of the story. Are there any place? Where is it? And then when is the time or the reasons why the action or the events occur? Why does the action occur at night or in the morning? And where, related to the place, it is also the physical environment where the story takes place. For example, the description of the environment may suggest its importance to other aspects. For example, the theme and also the message of the story. And time, for example, in when, time may include all of these dimensions, like what was going on at that time, and what, if any, importance that has the period or time span of events with regards to the theme, maybe, or the motives, the characterizations, characters, atmosphere, or tone even. And talking about atmosphere or the mood of the story, it is the dominant emotion or the feeling that pervades a story. It is less physical and more symbolical, associative, and suggestive than setting. But sometimes it is often akin to the setting. Like every story has some kind of atmosphere, but in some, it may be the most important feature, or at least a key to the main points of the story, sometimes. And atmosphere is also created by the descriptive details. It can be created by the dialogue, for example, narrative language. For example, when you read Edgar Allan's Poe, at the Cast of Amontillado, you will find some dark atmosphere, maybe horror atmosphere. It also contains the narrative description of atonement, and the dialogue and also the word choice also contributes to a sense of horror. The next element is characters. A character is a person. It can be an animal or anything personified who acts in the plot of a short story or other literary work. And through characters, readers can experience the world that the author has built, both through the characters' interactions with and perceptions of their environment. Character is the mental, emotional, and social qualities that distinguish one entity from another. Like what I have been mentioned before, like character can be in the form of people, animals, or spirits, or maybe pieces of furniture and other animated objects. Here I provide two types of characters, anthropomorphic characterizations and animal characters. The first type is the characterization of animals or inanimate objects or even natural phenomena as people. And high-skilled authors can use this kind of characterization to create fantasy, even from the stuffed animal or stuffed toys like Winnie the Pooh. He or she may create that kind of character in his work. And the characterization of inanimate objects, from tiny soldiers, for example, in Toy Story, to maybe a tree, for example, has many impacts in the stories. But sometimes we can also find another character like a bird that is just kind of a bird. It's just a bird. It's just a chair. It's just a table. It's just the television, and there is no meaning or story behind that. When we talk about the animal characters, they personified or maybe create particular effects, especially when the animal characters contain connotative metaphoric connections to human traits. For example, one animal character, or we can say swan, it represents the elegance, or maybe if we have the character of fox, it represents sly, and so on and so forth. And here, when we talk about characters, we also need to talk about the character development. That is the change that a character undergoes from the beginning of the story until the end. So a character may have different kind of characters when there is a character development. And the importance of a character to the story determines how fully the character is developed. We also have one term called characterization. It is the process by which fictional characters are presented or developed. And based on its function, character can be grouped into two. The first one is protagonist. That is the principal figure in the story, the most important figure in the story. And the second one, it is called as antagonist. It is the character with whom the protagonist is engaged in a struggle. The antagonist character usually the character that causes the conflict. Talking about conflict, so it is any challenge that a character faces in a narrative. In a short narrative, the conflict is a struggle between two people, or maybe two objects, or even two animals. Like in the animal farm, you will find the conflict and struggle between animals. And the protagonist is on one side of the primary conflict. The next element is called as theme. So it is the idea, the belief, moral, lesson, or insight being discussed that refers to the theme. And the theme might be thought as the why of the story. It is also the fundamental and often universal ideas explored in a literary work. It is the important, it is quite important to have a theme in order to give the characters and event significance. And this results in a significant amount of emotional or spiritual participation and release from the audience. Some questions that may help you in analyzing the theme of the story is like, why did this writer bring these characters to this place and at that time? And what is the point of bringing the character there? What do the readers now know about something? And as the central or dominating ideas in a literary work, A theme may be several, like particularly in longer complex fiction. And theme must also be responsible in the form of a statement, not in, for example, not kind of thing like motherhood. But sometimes motherhood has more frustration than reward. So in this case, a theme may reflect a central vision of life or a statement about human condition or maybe human experience that conveyed in a work. Um, we'll next talking about plot. So I will try to review it once again. Plot is something that happens in the story from the beginning until the end of the story. It is the sequence of events, the order of events in a short story or in a novel that take place throughout the narrative that is referred to as the plot. And in general, a plot will have an introduction, racing action, climax, falling action, and resolution. The plot is actually in charge of making sure that every important part of the story is in place so that the reader can understand it and it can move forward. When we talk about the plot, it is the series of events and actions that occur in a story. And the structure of the plot is actually the method or the sequence in which incidents in a narrative are organized or presented to the audience or readers. Conflict, when we talk about conflict in the sense of friction or battle, it is the opposition of forces of character. And this quote unquote friction usually feels with action. The order or the narrative events may be related in different orders. So, for example, we have chronological or linear. So you will have the events in order, like it will start in the introduction, raising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. But we also have something to be understood here, that in the resolution part, in the type of conclusion or in the ending of a story, we may also have the various ending. For example, we will find maybe happy ending, like that everything ends well and all conflicts can be resolved. We can also have tragic or unhappy ending that, for example, many events in life do not end pleasantly. So literary fiction may emulate life that is more apt to have an unhappy conclusion and force the reader to contemplate the complexities of the character's life. You can also find another type of ending, for example, the open-ended or lack of resolution or partial resolution. So there is no definite ending or resolution that occurs. So the story usually leaves the reader to ponder the issue that is raised by the story. So the writer tends to give more space to the readers to reflect, to think about their own creative solution towards the issue that is presented in the story. Uh, in the plot, you sometimes will also find flashback. It is a scene that inserted usually into a film, into a novel, story, or even a play to show events that occurred at an earlier time. And this technique is used to complement the event in the present of the story. So in order to end our meeting today, I have a quotation. And as you can read on screen, great stories are built on compelling characters, plot, and theme. So I hope that after you watch this video, you will be able to get the meaning of the story better by understanding the characters, the plots, and also the theme. So the last word, thank you very much for listening and watching this video. And I'll see you in another occasion. Thank you very much.